Welcome to the Group Dentistry Now Show, the voice of the DSO industry. Join us as we talk with industry leaders about their challenges, successes, and the future of group dentistry. With over 200 episodes and listeners in over 100 countries, we're proud to be ranked the #1 DSO podcast. For the latest DSO news, analysis, and events, and to subscribe to our DSO weekly e-newsletter, visit groupdentistrynow.com. We hope you enjoyed today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to the Group Dentistry Now Show. I am Bill Neumann, and as always, we appreciate you watching us, or maybe you're listening to us. But however you consume our content, we really appreciate it. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, on the groupdentistrynow.com website, or maybe you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or Google. Thanks for checking in. And we always, just so much fun, and I learned so much from these conversations, and I'm sure this is going to be one of those podcasts. So we've got a returning guest and somebody new to the show. However, the last name may ring a bell. So we have Dr. Layla Lohmann, who is the co-founder and clinical director of Apex Dental Partners. Layla, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Bill. I really appreciate it. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. You're going to say something. Maybe it was about that last name.
I was going to say the last name. My husband knows Bill from a few years ago, and I appreciate you bringing me back on.
Yeah, that's great. And so I guess we'll talk about it now. So her husband, David Lohmann, is the CEO of Apex. And he was on the podcast eons ago, 2021. It was 2021 he was on. And then the other thing is Apex Dental Partners was a 2019 Emerging Groups to Watch winner. So we've been doing these awards once a year. And so if we go way back to 2019, so I'm going to ask Layla in a couple of minutes to fill us in on all the changes since 2020 and certainly 2019 when they won the award. I'm sure there's been a bit of growth since then. So thanks for being here, Layla.
Thank you.
And then we have returning Dr. David Rice. He is the founder of Ignite DDS. And David, we had a great conversation. It wasn't quite as long ago as the conversation we had with David. It was 2024, though. It's probably 6 months at least. And it's great to have you back on. And I will say it was one of our most downloaded podcasts of the year. So thanks. Hopefully, I'm going to guess this is going to be the same way. So thanks for being back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm guessing that was because of you and Lanita. I felt like, the third wheel, but it's good to be there.
You have a little bit of a social media following, so Thanks for being here. Dr. Lohmann, why don't we start with you a little bit about, your background and what led you to being the co-founder of Apex Dental Partners?
Yeah, so I became co-founder. We started the company in 2014, and Apex Dental Partners is a dental organization based in Dallas, Texas. We support practices, a network of practices across 8 states, and we support 52 practices with about 110 providers, and we focus on partnering with great people. So that's what Apex does, and we've grown from 2019. And the Catalyst program stemmed from my own learning journey. After the pandemic, a lot of things happened in every practice, and I decided to figure out what type of healthcare professional I wanted to be. And it was about 4 years ago, I decided to be the primary care provider of the oral cavity, which means discussing prevention. And then I have noted from that 4-year journey and my leadership journey from graduating from Guiding Leaders Glidewell's professional program 2 years ago, that I can make it profitable by delivering excellent patient care and addressing my patient promises. And it just all aligned. And then the Catalyst program came to fruition in 2024, where we enlisted David Rice's help. So that's where Apex is going, education, development, and getting our professionals personal and professional development to avoid burnout.
And as I read through your bio here, Dr. Lohmann, and you've got, you do really focus a lot on education, and it seems like every quote you have here. And it's interesting because, you hear favorite quotes, and a lot of times you've heard them, and it's like everybody kind of references the same. But, you've got one here from Ben Franklin, who is like probably the most quoted individual ever, right? But I've never heard this one. So tell me I forget, teach me I may remember, but involve me and I learn. So pretty interesting. And we're going to talk a lot about education and partnerships here. David, I know most people know who you are, but there are probably some that either need a refresher or maybe they miss the podcast that you were on or just happen to be new to the dental industry. So we're going to assume that there's like two people that don't know who you are.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So if we've never met before, either virtually in person, I am a dentist of 30 years. I don't like to say that too many times out loud, but 30 years. I love what I do. I've had 4 practices of my own, and we grew this little community called Ignite DDS from a couple people hanging around at a table to a network that reaches about 3.5 million dental pros every single month all around the globe. And, our focus today really is working with people like Layla, practices like Apex, people who like see a bigger vision and understand there's something else out there for them than maybe what they've been told or are experiencing in the moment.
Excellent. So we're gonna focus in on education and I just want to, if you're watching this, you see Ivoclar logo right at the bottom there. So Ivoclar has really been integral in this partnership program, the education, the part of the curriculum we can talk about. But thanks Ivoclar for sponsoring this. Don't want to forget them. So even though there's not somebody from Ivoclar here, they were the ones that put all this together, and we wouldn't be able to have this conversation without their support. So let's talk a bit about this training program. And again, talked about the partnership with Ivoclar and of course Ignite DDS. But Dr. Lohmann, what really you kind of do things a little differently at Apex. And so what was the catalyst behind putting together a program like this?
Again, I'll start off by saying it was my own learning journey. I've been practicing for almost 14 years. And I started realizing that I felt sometimes pressure to convince my patients, sometimes to convince my team members. And honestly, sometimes it was me. Did I not believe in the science? Did I not trust or believe in what I'm using? The journey itself came from my own 6-month program. So I graduated from Guiding Leaders, Glidewell Dental Program for Professional Development and Personal Development. And from there, it speared such a freeing and empowering professional life for me, which then bled into my personal life, which was amazing. And I thought to myself, why are we not providing this for every single provider in our practice? And, it was unfounded because if you don't have an ROI immediately, your leadership team in a DSO or a dental organization is going to say, I don't really trust and believe you're going to give me an ROI. So I had to go out and secure strategic partners like Ivoclar and Glidewell to help support me in this initiative because I could not fund it myself. And so I thought to myself, how do I build value for both people? Sustainable growth in a business sense for those vendors that we use. If we all do our patient promises, everyone also starts restoring more, producing more, which then uses more products, which aligns with our mission at Apex is serving others and changing lives. And I just needed help with vendor support. So it started off as I got through it. I saw the professional growth and personal growth, and I wanted to provide that with our doctors. And so I aligned myself with people such as David Rice and other strategic partners like Ivoclar to help this come to life. And it wouldn't have happened without them.
Layla, what type of training and education is this? Is this just strictly clinical training? Talk a little bit about what type of training, and then who at the organization is receiving the training.
So David will go into detail, but it dives into business strategies, best practices of what we've learned over the last 10 years of what works and doesn't work, and that we are constantly looking at new innovations, new products to bring to our practices. It's our doctors who receive this initially, but we have seen how team member integration is so important. So this next year, we're bringing in the leadership team, which is our business managers and our doctors. And then I'm hoping in 2026, we bring in our team members. But it's leadership, self-awareness, understanding your role and how it impacts others versus training you to correct other people. And that was through the leadership that we provided. So leadership, business strategies, and we do sprinkle in clinical. So there is definitely clinical involved, but we're taught to be restorative doctors. We're trying to teach them how to be healthcare providers in prevention. That's where it's leading to.
Excellent. David, can you talk a little bit about Ignite DDS's role putting this program together and your role specifically?
Sure. So, I think what most of your listeners really want to hear probably is the strategic side of this. But I'll add a little color to what Layla said later on as well. But, we came in along with Ivoclar and said, okay, there's 3 facets that we have to be excellent at in a practice today. We have to have strong people. So, we kind of came to Apex. They had great people already, but we needed to kind of harness those people and level them up. And then I think where we really truly all united was on process and how to focus on the right processes. So what was working for Apex already? What could get even better than it was working in the past? And then to Layla's point, we started this off with the dentist, which I loved, and then we incorporated in their office managers, their OBMs, and then their regional business managers, really with the concept of train the trainer. I mean, you want to bring somebody like myself and Ivoclar and partner so you can get better faster, but you really don't want me around for the long haul. You want to be able to have your own leadership with your own practice. And it's one of the things I really admire about Apex at large. And it stems from Layla's vision, because they're remarkably different from most folks I get to work with. So we had people, we had process, and then of course we had to add production. And what I love about Layla's vision is it's really in alignment with how we teach practices, all over North America. Production isn't the number. Production is our diagnostic ability. Production is the treatment we deliver. Production is the core pieces of tech that need to go in there. And when we have all those elements and we focus on oral health and we connect that to systemic health, then our patients win, our practice wins, our profits skyrocket. And Layla, like some of the numbers we've reached together in like this teeny little 6 months period of time, like blow me away. And you have to tell Bill what you told me the other day, because I knew we had done well, but I was shocked myself on how well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so let's talk about how this program does help Apex move the needle.
So I'm proud to say first that there was 13 providers, and on average, those 13 providers over 6 months grew 10% in their own personal production. So that was the first number that I got. And then recently from my husband, who was very proud of our initiative, he let me know that 2 of our practices, which are multi-doctor practices, and all the doctors in the practice, so one is a 2-doctor practice and one is a 3-doctor practice, and those doctors who invested in themselves, so the whole team came, meaning both doctors, those doctors grew in production together $1.6 million in production in 6 months.
Okay. Wow. That's mad. So David, is this common? I mean, this seems pretty spectacular growth in 6 months, 13 docs, 1.6 million.
So it's actually 5 doctors grew 1.6 million. The total cohort grew 10% of their own personal production. So it's actually even better numbers.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah. I would say of course, percentages vary from group to group that we work with. I think, you mentioned a Ben Franklin quote that was one of Layla's, but one you hadn't heard. You guys have probably at some point heard the quotes, what got you here won't get you there. I think normally when we walk into a group, we have to help that group leadership understand where is first. What helped us grow so quickly with Layla and her doctors is Layla was crystal clear with the where. The vision was super strong. So I think we grew them faster together than we normally would. Normally, I would say if we come to work with you, you can hit over $1 million easy. in 10 months and 12 months, but to do it in 6 months was really, Layla knew where Apex needed to go. David, CEO, knew where Apex needed to go. So that was a big help. But I think the other thing that really helped them succeed and helped us do what we did is they weren't afraid to get out of the box. When I know a lot of groups, for, name a multitude of reasons why people don't want an outsider or outsiders coming in, sort of getting behind the curtain. And we worked really hard at building trust, and that trust just keeps growing. And it's a combination of Layla's vision, the trust, and then her docs, they showed up and did the work. So those numbers are very real when we deep dive together.
So what the audience is going to want to know how to do this. If they can get results like this, it's would think that they'd be happy to bring in an outsider if they're going to get results like this. And maybe sometimes that's what it takes in some cases, to bring somebody, that maybe doesn't, look at things as sort. You kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision sometimes when you're working in an organization. To get different perspective can really help. So, David, maybe a little bit more on why you think this was so successful and how it all came together. I mean, Layla talked a little bit about putting it together and really being in order to do an initiative like this, you couldn't do it as an organization on your own. You needed outside partners. So you went to Dr. Rice and Ivoclar and Glidewell and some others. So, David, you talk a little bit about the process behind it, how you kind of get things started?
Sure. The best thing to do when you look in the mirror one day and you realize, like, you know what? Damn it, I do deserve better. Take a step. So, you can, reach out to myself. I'm guessing we're going to have how to contact me in the show notes, but reach out and understand that, we as Ignite DDS don't come alone. We bring great partners like Ivoclar with us everywhere we go, so we can have that 360 approach and gain financial control and systems control and clinical control, like all the elements that we really need. So the first thing to do is just take a step. Send me an email, shoot me a call, send me a text message, and then we'll do exactly what we did with Layla and leadership team. And Layla, you can speak to that. Like, we spent countless hours together before we actually began mapping this whole process out. So it was very customized. It was exactly what Apex wanted. Just seasoned with all the things we know at Ignite that drive success that's, both sustainable and really worth investing your time in.
Dr. Lohmann,
Yep.
How would you know Ivoclar and Glidewell would be the right partners? I mean, I think it's one of these things. I do a lot of these podcasts. We work with a lot of different vendors out there, manufacturers, and the industry is, and as a clinician, you're inundated with product offerings, and to a large degree, clinical solutions have all evolved to the point where they're all pretty darn good for the most part. And so, why Ivoclar? And and then of course you could talk a little bit about Dr. Rice and their Ignite and why you partner with that.
Well, one thing I'll say before I say why Ivoclar is, I think every dental organization who's thinking about doing a program like this, first of all, congratulations on taking the next step to success. But I would leverage the current vendors you're using. So Ivoclar to me was somebody who was willing to take a risk on us. We weren't using them as much as other products, but when they heard my vision and he said, this is something we're interested in, because that's what their mission is. Like, they were aligned in both of our missions. So I believe alignment to making sure that you both are in a true partnership where you understand, what does growth look like? One of the questions I asked each of my vendor supporters was, what does success look like to you in this program? So I could know what type of partner I needed to be. And then it held us both accountable. And so one of them would say something like, we want to see growth. And to me, that's not a measurable data point. So I said, can you give me a number you and your leadership team would like to see with growth? So we did, to Dr. Rice's point, we've investigated a lot before I had to make this program a success. But there are a lot of options out there. And so to me, Ivoclar cared about people, cared about the process, cared about teaching how to use the process the right way, and understanding, like Sean from Ivoclar was like, hey, this is a 3-year project for us. And no one would do that with me. Like a 3-year project, people want things now, and people don't see sustainable results with now. And so what has to change is the provider's awareness to what is my impact now, and then the other parts set into place. And that's where we brought Dr. Rice in. He has an incredible way to speak to people, engage our doctors. Honestly, engaging people is his superpower. And it's been great because he was already a speaker with the company that was aligning with us. And so I don't know if that answered your question.
Sure, yeah, sure. It sure does. And I'll turn over the next question to Dr. Rice. Based on your experience with this partnership, the collaboration, we've got a lot of DSOs, all different shapes and sizes, that listen and watch this podcast. So we've got some emerging groups and some that may have some type of educational programs in place. Although what is shocking is I find a lot of them don't, and even the larger groups don't seem to have anything, or it's not super successful for various reasons. So maybe so there would be a lot of people that are interested in what are some of the biggest opportunities for growth when you put together a program like this, and then I think the implementation side of things, like how do we do this, because it sounds great. We know our clinicians are going to they're going to love something like this. They're, in a lot of cases, they're asking probably for something like this, and they don't know how to start, and then how do we implement? So I know it's like set 3 questions there, but opportunities and implementation, maybe we could stick to 2.
Sure. So I think we have to shrink the change for people. And if we shrink it to, you've heard me say this a few times already, like the people element, the process element, and the production element. I think if you're a group that's really ready to dive in, then dive in the deep end of the pool. If you're not, then what I would recommend to you is take advantage of the partnerships that we have and start by bringing, it doesn't have to be me. There's great people in our industry, but if it was going to be, our team at Ignite, like bring us in for a day. And the greatest opportunity, I think, is that as good as we all are, we all get instantly more intelligent the moment we walk out our door, we hop in a plane, and we're working with other people than our team. So it's kind of like parenting, and your child comes home after the neighbor told them the exact same thing that you've been telling them for the last 5 years, and all of a sudden it's brilliance. So the opportunity is bringing somebody in from the outside who has the skill sets that would improve your people, your process, and then drive, production growth from you. I think that's the opportunity. And then where the rubber really meets the road on stuff like this is accountability. And what I love about what Layla and Apex have done with Catalyst is they have given, all of us the opportunity to hold her team accountable on a one-on-one level, and then sort of bring that accountability to them as leadership. So they don't have to shoulder the load, but they did have to trust, my team at Ignite to be able to do that. And that is a trust that never goes without notice, because then we can consistently get with people on the team, the doctors, the office business managers, the regional business managers, and say, hey, we promised to do this in this timeline. We got it done. Great. We didn't get it done. What happened? How do we do it? The recipe is the recipe, but the work is the work.
Let's talk about, Dr. Lohmann, balancing business growth with high clinical standards in patient care, because you're probably wrestling on the patient care, high clinical standards side of things, and David may be looking at the numbers a little bit more. So how do you balance that? And did the Catalyst program, how does that kind of help with that balance?
Yeah, it's actually, isn't that the perfect question, right? How do you balance it all? I think, to your point, and if I don't answer it, just chime in a minute. But I think I didn't realize my impact as a provider. I have been a preventative doctor, and I would consider myself a conservative doctor for 14 years. And I started realizing conservative means not don't not treat. The conservative means having those crucial conversations with patients to reduce their economic burden long term. I used to think about it like, if they don't do this right now, I'll fix it when it's a problem, because that's what conservative looked like to me. But through the leadership and development, so my own program, well, guiding leaders, and then I was a participant in our Catalyst program, even though I put it on last year, so I could feel what it be like to our doctors. It actually reduced the pressure to have to convince patients. I used to hate the word selling. Ask David Lohmann. I would hate when someone said that. He then put it back to me as, aren't you always educating somebody? And if you want to buy in, isn't that selling? Like, for them to understand their oral disease. And it took it to a way where it made me feel uncomfortable. But I started realizing that my case acceptance in my business should reflect my care and not the opposite, where it devalued me. And so through leadership and development and the process that we did, it was understanding my role, because I would blame my team member for not doing things, or I might blame the support office for not doing something. And really, it was my communication. So I learned how to communicate because I understood my style, and I learned how to adapt my style to be more effective. And I only did that because I went through programs like this, because that personal development will bleed through my personal and professional life. So you saw that through my leadership development, my business followed, because patients started accepting their care that I prescribed more often. So you can see in the last 3 years, my case acceptance went from like 22%, which was very hard for me to hear as somebody who loves preventative dentistry, to close to 50% now. And I feel less pressure doing dentistry, but the business is aligned and my team is more involved. So hopefully that answers your question. But I want to answer that implementation part. For organizations looking to develop this, I ask you to ask yourself, are you ready to do the work? Because you have to help keep yourself accountable in order for your doctors to want to keep themselves accountable. And I think that's a little bit of the piece that David was saying, David Rice, not Lohmann, was I live in both worlds. I'm practicing clinician 3 days a week, and I also am in the organization. So I'm able to help my doctors understand that, like, you can do it. I have 4 years of data to show.
Well, thank you. That's great. Thanks for the input on the implementation side of things. It's one of those huge challenge for, I think, beyond dentistry, just for people in general. We have ideas, and but it's really the execution and the implementation. So you can have brilliant ideas, a brilliant educational program, but it's like, how do you actually implement that? I think that's really the key to success. And David, do you have any input on that? Because I think what Layla was talking about when it comes to, and she touched on treatment acceptance, which is a huge challenge in the industry. And I think, yes, sometimes clinicians feel like they're salespeople. They don't want to be salespeople. You talked about conservative dentistry, and you're right. It's like, okay, well, trying to save them money, so maybe we could do this later. But however, if we put it off till later, it's actually going to cause potentially more problems and cost you more money. So I think that's it's. Do you find that, David, that's pretty common with organizations that you work with and clinicians?
I do. I tend to see, when we walk in the door, I think I tend to see extremes. We either see dentists and teams who are underdiagnosing and undertreating, or, and this is going to be hard to hear, but it's the truth, they're overdiagnosing and they're overtreating. I think finding that happy space in the medium where we're not selling, we're really just presenting, but we're presenting in a manner that patients can really understand. So we learn to speak their language, and patients come to us, with a very individual mindset. They've been feeding their brain just like we feed our brains all day, every day. So we've got to understand each individual who sits in our chair, be able to communicate with them in a language they understand. Yet when we start talking about a practice, we have to have process for that, so we don't miss a beat. So we don't just master 10% of the population or 15% of the population. We master 100% of the population, because we tend to see practices do well with a certain patient persona and not well with so many others. So we need process to understand human behavior. That's a lot of what we've worked with Layla's team. It's a lot of what Layla's personal journey and leadership is. It's understanding yourself first, understanding who's on your team, how to maximize each other's inherent strengths, how to get better together, and then how to translate that to the patient world. So the tens, talk about groups, hundreds of thousands of dollars you're spending on marketing to make your phone ring or get somebody to click on your website actually convert to not just somebody who's sitting in your chair, but somebody who's sitting in your chair saying yes to complete care. And that's, Layla, that's something I super admire about the leadership you've brought and your vision for this, because it's not what I see most often. And I don't think it's because people are bad people. I think they just haven't learned a lot of the lessons to show them how to be highly profitable while delivering optimal care. And it's, full circle. One of the reasons I love Ivoclar so much is like, that's their focus. So they're so woven into the fabric of many things that we do because, common belief system and how we treat people and get them to the best place.
I'm going to try and wrap this podcast up with a couple of final questions. First off, I'd love to get any final thoughts from both of you, but then also if, we're in early 2025, so both you, Layla and David, let us know what's going on, your organizations, what you have planned for the rest of the year. It's a relatively new year, so everybody has plans and an outlook, and everybody tends to be very optimistic. So we'd love to get some optimism here too for the industry that's been kind of a little slow lately. Let's say dentistry for the past couple of years has just kind of been, I think inflation and some things like that have kind of slowed things down. I'm optimistic this year, and so I'd love to get some optimistic words. What are your plans for 2025? And any final thoughts? So, Layla, why don't we start with you first?
Yeah, one of my final thoughts is from two sides. One, from a clinician standpoint, conservative dentistry can be proactive. We know our patients are never going to be 100% compliant, so we're great restorative doctors. So I invite everyone who's a dentist to become a primary care provider of the oral cavity and talk about prevention. There's new innovative products on the market. So look and trust in the science. And if you don't trust in the science, ask better questions instead of putting up roadblocks. So that's the clinician standpoint. And from the dental organization standpoint, I honestly just want to return for our company better results from last year, to implement more refined process from cohort number 1 to cohort number 2. David's being more integrated into this year. And so we're going to see where we can tweak some of the processes with the program and hopefully start building separate group programs for the team members for those catalyst doctors, because it's Apex Catalyst program, for those catalyst doctors, for their team members to get the same kind of awareness and communication help that our providers are having this year.
Thanks, Dr. Lohmann. And Dr. Rice.
Sure. So optimism piece, first of all, is you can do this. Where we, Layla kind of, very kindly and jokingly joked about like superpower and connecting with people and influencing people, but we don't have anything any more special than you do. So if you're watching this or you're listening to this, this is absolutely in your grasp. You just have to take a step and want it and then do the work it requires. On the fun side of what Ignite's doing this year is we're working with 35 different, some individual practices and then some group practices. And really our goal is to mirror the results we've had with Layla's team and practices with each of those 35. And we're bringing about 21-day programs to the group industry as well. We've got 6 of them left. We are crazy planners on our side. So if that's something you're interested in and you're kind of not a jump into the deep end of the pool, you need to tiptoe in, like that's a great place to start. But I would just highly encourage you to take a step. whatever that step is for you that feels good, take that step. And once you take it, what I know is going to happen is you're going to realize that there's a much bigger leap for you moving forward. You just didn't know it was possible until you take that first one. So you got to just do it.
That's great. That is nice and optimistic too. I definitely appreciate that. Dr. Rice, if people want to connect with you, and we'll make sure we drop both your LinkedIn handle and also yours, Layla, in the show notes. But beyond LinkedIn, can you shout out your website and any other ways that are really good ways to connect with you or find out more about what you're doing at Ignite DDS?
Sure. So the website is just ignitedds.com. You can also reach out to my email. It's my name. It's david.rice@ignitedds.com. And you're going to think I'm crazy, Bill, but I've done this for 30 years with every patient and every team I've ever worked with. My cell phone number is 716-912-7970. Layla can attest, like, I love you winning even more than I loved like the wins we had in my own practice, where our whole team is all in. So text, email, call, do whatever's easiest for you. We'll get back to you within 24 hours for sure.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Layla, if people want to find out more about Apex Dental Partners, or they want to reach out to you and find out more about, maybe they want to come work at Apex, and maybe, hey, the Catalyst sounds great. How do I get involved? Or maybe they have a practice that they may want to potentially partner up with you and the Apex Dental Partners team. And how would they do so?
No, I appreciate that. And I don't know if I got the optimistic side, but if you've seen me smiling the whole time, this is my optimism. It just naturally comes out. So
you definitely have the optimism.
If you want to learn more about Apex Dental Partners, we'd like you to go to Apex DP, Apex Dental D, P as in partner.com, and one of our team members will reach out to you. But my personal thing is Dr. Dr. Lohmann, Lohmann at dallasdental.com. Happy to share and talk to anybody. And like David Rice, I give my cell phone out to everybody. My cell phone is 405-414-1083. I invite you to take the first step in learning more about what you can do in the dental industry. But honestly, my personal mission is making a difference in your life, because that impacts everybody beyond you. And so if you need anything, let us know. I'm excited about the next cohort with David Rice, and hopefully we'll be back next year to share how well it went.
Well, it's going well so far, that's for sure. And thank you for wrapping that up so nicely. And we'd also like to thank Ivoclar for sponsoring this podcast and also being part of the Catalyst program with both Ignite DDS and, of course, Apex Dental Partners. So if you want to find out more about Ivoclar, you can reach out to Sean Finn at ivoclar.com. So it's Sean, SEAN.Finn, FINN at ivoclar.com. Yeah, that's it for today. I mean, I'm going to drop all that information in the show notes, cell phone numbers. It's the first time I think I've had two cell phone numbers. Sometimes I'll get one, but both of you gave them out. Wonderful. I love it. So you can communicate with Layla or David any way you feel like you'd like to. LinkedIn, email, cell phone number, you name it, or go to the website. So until next time, I'm Bill Neumann. This is the Group Dentistry Now Show, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to stay up to date on the latest DSO news, insights, and events. Also, subscribe to our DSO weekly e-newsletter at groupdentistrynow.com.